Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship. This is race 4, the Daytona Gold Cup. I'm Daniel Quaroni, and let me talk to you briefly about Z1 Simwheel. I told you last race, the Z1 Simwheel LCD software is now available separate from the display, so you can buy it from them at z1simwheel.com. And I've got with me Brian Carey and Anthony Muniz.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great to be back with you for another race.
So, we're at Daytona at night. We've got our two classes here, the Daytona Prototypes at home at this track, and the Cadillac CTSVs. You can see Russell Cow and Mike Kelly tied for first in DPs. And we've got Brian Carey just trailing by 3 points. Carlos Passos just one beyond him. Timothy Stoles in 5th, but again, well within splitting distance of the top spot. And hey, there I am, 9 points down. Then a very similar situation in Cadillac, so we've got Mark Payne and James Cullen both tied with 25 points. Eric Palacio, Colin McLean, Lauren Bateman, you see them 2, 3, and 5 points down. So the top 5, once again, all total contenders. Heck, even Todd Carver, Julio Palacio, and Edward Prado, they're all really, really close to the top spot. So lots of competition this season. That's what we've been talking about, and I think that's what we'll continue to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty early into the season here, factoring in the one drop week that we get. So, I mean, we have a lot of potential for position changes, a lot of retirements last race. As we show up the track map here for Daytona International Speedway. Gone over this a few times. It's your typical roval. Nothing too impressive about the track as far as white knuckle corners. I guess turn 1 is an extremely difficult braking zone. Watch for that for a lot of incidents there. Very easy to get that wrong. The International Horseshoe 3, turn 5, good passing opportunities, as well as the butt stop, which is counted as 4 corners at the back of the oval, where turns 7 and 12 on this road course are actually turns 1 and 2 of the oval, and 3 and 4 respectively. So nice wide open track, and as Dan mentioned earlier on, the Daytona Prototypes, aptly named after the Daytona 24-hour race held at this track, so looks should be a good race.
Oh, and so we've got the qualifying order. The Daytona Prototypes, Timothy Stoll at 1:37.603. Russell Cow just behind him, 0.1 seconds behind. Mike Kelly, 0.1 seconds behind him. Carlos Passos and Patrick Spence. Daniel Quaroni, then John Middleton. And we got Jeremy Burris and Brian Carey.
And then James Cullen taking the pole with a 144.4 with Mark Payne just 0.4 off of that. Todd Carver was in 3rd with Eduardo Prado just behind. And then we have Ricardo Machuca, Kenny Coughlin, Lauren Bateman, and Colin McLean. And then Ryan Huff and Julio Palacio rounding out the top 10 for the Cadillacs.
And I apologize, it is not race 4, it is race 3 here at Daytona.
We got quite a large field here, pretty full classes. Look like the Daytona Prototypes are right up to their maximum of 20 cars here. I don't have the exact number off the top right here, but it looked like a pretty full field, as well as the Cadillacs as well. Very well represented. So got a little bit to go as they're coming onto the oval there for the back straight, approaching the bus stop chicane. So it'll be a little while before we get the green flag here. Let the cars kind of settle into get a feel for themselves, and very nice paint schemes there for both Brent Briles and Carl Bumbauer. Carl Bumbauer in the, as we mentioned before, the Jägermeister car. The colors really pop here at Daytona under the lights. It's really shows off how great the paint schemes are, as well as the graphical capabilities of iRacing. This looks pretty close to the real thing.
Yeah, we have 19 entries in the Daytona Prototype class, so that's probably the fullest we've seen thus far this season. 21 cars will make up the Cadillac field, so also a very sizable field there as well. So look for a lot of action like we mentioned earlier. This is a very wide track that's going to allow lots of close racing, and I expect to see this one to be quite action-packed. This, like we pointed out earlier, this track is basically what the Daytona Prototype is built for, so we should see some good action up in that class, as well in the Cadillacs. They've been competitive all season long so far, and I don't expect that to change.
Yeah, obviously lots of drafting will happen on the oval section. This is, essentially the longest straights we'll get anywhere in the season.
Yeah, like I was just going to say what Dan was saying, lots of drafting here, which means at the start here you're going to have cars kind of breaking off into packs of 3 or 4 more cars, and those guys will follow each other around until we start hitting traffic. So green flag coming up in just a few seconds here.
Pace car really likes to wait until the last moment to dive into the pit, so you'll see it jump in right there. And there we go. Timothy Stoll taking off ahead of Russell Cow, and he's across the line, and we've got the green.
See if we can get through this corner clean. This is going to be a tough one in the first lap with cars going side by side. Looks like we didn't see anyone, no major incidents thus far. That's the toughest part of the track, so still a lot of tight corners coming up here, so hopefully we can get through until we get to the back on the oval here, but looking good so far as we're with Eduardo Prado. Looks like he's made up one place to get into... Nope, well, there he goes. It's battling between second and third between him and Mark Payne right now.
And look at that, there was a sizable gap left between the Daytona Prototypes and the GT cars, and already James Cullen is right on the back of the last place position Daytona Prototype, so that's quite interesting there. A lot of accordion effects going into turn 1. Russell Cow looking to challenge going up onto NASCAR turn 3, getting on the apron. That's not really something that we look at. Obviously, he didn't make a pass there. I'm pretty sure that GTC rules regulate that if you do make a pass, you are supposed to give that back up if you make one on the apron. So that'll be something to factor in. Here's a good battle between Marty Jeffries and Chuck Chambliss. Chuck Chambliss running a new livery for Daytona Prototype. His Daytona Prototype makes a great pass going into turns the bust up right there, as it is known. Gets a great pass there as we watch the battle for the front position in Daytona Prototypes.
Yeah, I was wondering what the number 2 on the top of Chuck's car is. He's number 15, but it's a I am second paint scheme. I'm not sure exactly the significance of that. Hopefully we get a comment from Chuck later in the season to kind of explain that one, but very interesting paint scheme nonetheless.
And the battle's still very close here after one lap of racing in Cadillac's top 3 cars, nose to tail. And Mark Payne gets very, very close. So it looks like there was an incident there between, I believe that's Brent Briles and Jeremy Burris there in Daytona Prototypes going into turn 1. So they get into an incident. Very easy for that to happen in turn 1. It's a very difficult corner, especially under braking. So I expect to see more of that. Looks like both the drivers were able to continue on. Hopefully not too much damage.
We're looking back at Patrick Spence from the rear bumper of Carlos Passos right now. They cut back down to Todd Carver, where he's battling in his 4th position right now. Chasing down Eduardo Prado, who has lost the position to Mark Payne. Looks like he's lost another one to Todd Carver here, if Todd can hold the inside, but Prado coming hard back around the outside.
Yeah, Mark Payne was looking very racy going into turn 1. He's getting right up onto the back bumper of Prado, and it looks like he definitely has to pace early in the stages of this race.
And the one thing about the drafting, too, is I'm noticing here a lot of the cars are able to keep up with the draft, but you don't really get a huge tow coming up behind someone as Carlos Passos goes underneath Mike Kelly coming back onto the oval here. But the drafting factor being, well, significant enough doesn't really give you a huge slingshot that you'd expect. You really have to kind of work and be patient and use the entire length of the oval there to make a run on someone. As Mike Kelly kind of sucks up behind, but I mean his speed on the outside isn't significantly greater than he was on his own. So.
And you saw Carlos Passos easily defending as they go into the braking point for turn 1. And I think there's a few factors that come into the draft here. One might be the proper gear ratios that these guys set. Maybe if they were a bit too aggressive and they are going to run out of top end before they hit the end of the straightaway and not be able to pull around. Also, I know downforce isn't a huge factor on the Daytona Prototype, but it does help. So if someone is running less downforce, that might give them a bit of an advantage on these long straightaways. Timothy Johnson looks like he was going to make a pass there on the outside of turn 1 on John Kelly. It's very impressive. Definitely hard to do. Stephen Clark, too fast into turn 1, has a glancing blow off the tire wall there, going to lose his spot to Gregory Schaefer. And it looks like he's able to continue on, so like that must have been just a glancing blow and hopefully not too much damage done.
Yeah, he won't know for sure until he takes a couple more corners, because sometimes even just a little bit of knocking the toe out of that car will cause issues that won't be readily apparent. So we got Russell Cow and Timothy Stahl battling up front.
And we'll take a look at Brian Carey's car, and Brian Carey running a bit lower down the field than we're used to seeing him. He's down in 8th place, currently trying to chase down, well, he gets by John Middleton. John Middleton looked like he had an issue going through the chicane there. That's an easy spot made up for Brian Carey. His next target will be Daniel Qualroni, who's about a second further up the circuit. Oh, and there's confirmation right there. That is John Middleton on the apron as they head down in, coming out of turn 4. So it looks like he's either waiting for a break in the traffic to get back on because he's low on speed, or he's had some sort of issue. Carlos Passo's looking to dive on the inside of Mike Kelly into turn 1. He's definitely still alongside, and he gets by as they go through the turn 2 S's right there. And it looks like Patrick Bennett's going to try and battle as they go into turn 3. Not going to quite have it. Kelly will be able to defend on the outside, but good move there by Carlos Passos that moves him up into 3rd place.
Yeah, John Middleton was down low there because he had cut the corner, and he got a cut the corner penalty, meaning he had to give up a certain lap delta, a little bit of time there. Normally it's about 1 or 2 seconds off your regular pace, so he was a little slow getting up to pace, staying down low in the apron so other drivers can go around him.
Here's a good battle right here. This is John Kelly trying to find a way around. Ooh, and Gregory Schaefer very early on the brakes. Clark Reed able to put a nice move there on the inside going into turn 1. He'll try and look to fight his way past John Kelly, currently in 14th. So Clark Reed making a good move there in the early stages of this race. Ooh, and that was close there. It looks like John Kelly got sideways going through turn 3, almost collected by Clark Reed. Now Reed's going to try and challenge as they head down into the turn 4 kink. He's right on his back bumper. And this is pretty close battle between these two guys. It's down the field, but still fun. And then we'll go back to the battle for the lead of the Daytona Prototypes. It's still Timothy Stoll out front with Russell Cow just half a car length, and he's pulling up now as they go side by side as they cross the start-finish line.
See, as I mentioned before, he kind of pulled up alongside him there, but as soon as he got to the start-finish line, he wasn't able to draft past. That said, he's able to dive past on the brakes to the outside. Very bold move by Russell Cow. He's able to hold on. I don't know, he ran a little wide, so Tim's going to have another shot at him. And they're going side by side into the international hairpin here. It looks like Russell has it.
Yeah, Russell was very brave on his late braking maneuver around Tim Stoll, but he made it work. He went very deep into that corner and used all the track. You saw him dipping a couple wheels off there, using all the curbing, but that worked. We have a new leader in Daytona Prototype, so great move there by Russell Cow.
There's battles going all through the field right now. Brent Bryles going down the inside of it looked like Tim McLeish. He'll be on the outside for the next corner, but it looks like he has the apex, and he does.
And we recall just a couple laps ago, it was Brent Bryles and Jeremy Burris had an incident in turn 1. Looks like both of those drivers were able to continue without having to stop for repairs in their pit stop, so that is good to see them both fighting it out amongst other Daytona Prototypes. We'll jump on board now with John Middleton, and he is chasing down Chuck Chambliss is there. That is the battle for 9th spot in the Daytona Prototypes. And now this is Carlos Passos, and he looks quite a bit farther back than what last we saw. He was up in 3rd place. Made a great move. Oh, and he gets too much curbing coming out of the chicane and has a spin. Not going to be any damage there, but he's going to lose a ton of time. And I'm guessing he had some sort of incident before that because he was quite a bit farther down the field than we saw earlier. Another car off there that looks like Ryan Huff.
All right, we're along with Julio Palacio. Julio's very well. He's up in. Actually, where is Julio? His position keeps changing there on our screen. There, it looks like he's in 8th position steadily right now. But now Carlos Passos battling with Tim McLeish. Tim McLeish was running earlier in 15th position or 16th position now, following behind there, and it looks like Carlos is behind Brent Bryles. So unfortunate series of laps for Carlos, going from 4th to about 14th. So.
And we're on board now with Daniel Grauty as he makes his way through the chicane on the back straight. And as they head back down towards NASCAR Turn 3, And looks like he's fallen down the field too, so I'm guessing that he's had some sort of incident. He qualified 11th, so that's about where he should be. And Brent Browse getting and spins it in the turn 5. I guess you could call it a hairpin. I guess it's not really a hairpin, but allows Carlos Passos to get by. But unfortunate for Brent Browse, seems like he's having a bit of trouble this race.
And our colleague Anthony Muniz there in the number 4 Kaiser Racing Machine, going around the outside of Ryan Huff right now, battling back from 19th position. Cadillac is a new car for him this year, so still early in the season. Race 3, still in learning mode here as he's battling with Ryan right now, and hoping to move that car forward as we come back on board with Patrick Spence right now, right behind Mike Kelly in his draft, hoping to make a move into turn 1.
And Spence is going to have the outside. We've seen a couple moves around the outside so far in both classes. Not going to have it this time as they dive into the braking zone for turn 1.
Yeah, it's one of those places you really don't want. It's early in the race. We still got well over an hour left in the race. You don't want to be taking too many risks going into turn 1 there, because sure, you might gain a place, but more than likely you could lose a place. And if you lose a place and you lose the track, you'll find the wall, and the wall can end your race right there. So potential of maybe giving a place or maybe losing your race altogether, and most drivers at this point in the race will back off and wait for a better opportunity.
And here's a good 3 Daytona Prototype pack. We've got John Middleton at the back. Well, actually might be 4 if we can just catch the camera angle. But this is John Middleton in the back of that pack, and he's chasing down Gilles Moret, or not Gilles Moret, that would be pardon me, Marty Jeff, was that right? No. The name will come to me eventually, but we'll jump back to the battle for the lead in Daytona Prototype. It's Russell Kyle still out in front with Tim Stoll just behind. And those guys obviously have the pace. They've managed to put about a second and a half between themselves and Mike Kelly in 3rd, and then a further 2.5 seconds spot to 4th place with Patrick Spence. So that's good pace there. And Jeremy Burr is trying to battle his way back there. He's going to go on the inside of Mike Taylor, and looks like he'll have the pass as they head into the chicane. And this is back with John Middleton and Jerry Morsdorf. That is the driver that I was trying to think of. And it looks like John Middleton will have the inside line as they go through NASCAR's turn 2 and 3, heading down onto the back straight. He'll have the, looks like he'll have the pass made before they hit the, oh, I'm sorry, this is the front straight, but he'll have the pass made before they head into turn 1.
All right, now Ryan Cuff looks like he's dirt tracking it around the middle here, coming back onto the track. It's let Anthony Muniz go by around the outside, so that's, looks like that's for 11th or 10th place right now. He was, I believe it was 19th before. I'm not sure if our on-screen...
yeah, that might have been a timing and scoring error.
Yeah, because that'd be a remarkable jump to go from 19th to 10th in about 2 laps. So, although not entirely impossible because of the amount of off-track excursions and how close everyone is running here. All it takes is one guy kind of messing it up, going into a chicane or a hairpin, and I mean, you can gain or lose 5 to 10 spots pretty quickly. So.
And the 2 front runners in Daytona Prototype have caught what appears to be the first of the Cadillac traffic. So that's going to now be a factor in their battle for the top spot in DPs as they had more and more traffic. Not as big of an issue here because there is a lot of room for them to get past on the oval section of the circuit. But if you do get held up in the infield, that is going to cost you quite a bit of time, as Carlos Passos is working his way back up the field, currently in 13th place.
Yeah, I think I was noticing about Tim and Russell up front is Russell seemed to catch him and was holding on to him and made a pretty bold pass around the outside of a Stoll there, and looked like he was going to be able to pull away, but Stoll's been able to stick right to his tail and has not let him go. They're still running less than half a second apart right now, and looks like it'll be hopefully some, as far as Russell's concerned, some traffic and maybe open that gap up a little bit, but as it stands right now, Stoll is holding on to the leader.
Yeah, and what a comeback race for Stoll. Remember last season, oh, and there's another incident there. That looked like possibly either, looks like Mike Kelly, because he's no longer in 3rd place. That has been moved up to
it was Kelly and Spence.
Okay, so that was 2 front runners there. That was 3rd and 4th in class. Kelly and Spence, looks like they collected themselves or each other in turn 1 or coming out of turn 1. something happened there, and that moves Daniel Coroni and Brian Carey up to 3rd and 4th now, with Chuck Chambliss being the top last of the top 5. But yeah, that was what a great race, or comeback race for Timothy Stoll. Remember last season he was driving Daytona Prototypes, blew his engine coming out of turn 3 on the opening lap. So for him to have great pace and bringing the fight to Russell Cow, who's had amazing pace in Daytona Prototypes so far this season, that's a great race for Timothy Stoll. Todd Carver going to pull up another spot that puts him up into 4th place for the Cadillac. So Todd Carver is starting to move up the field now.
Yeah, we're going back to showing Tim McLeish on the track there. I'm not sure. It looked like Chuck Chambliss is on the bottom of the track. I was wondering why we're showing Tim McLeish when he was looking like he was running by himself. But
another car there slow.
Yeah, it looked like he was going past a couple slow cars. I don't know if they went off in the chicane or if they ran into each other or what. But Tim McLeish making up a couple of places rather quickly.
Timothy Stoll trying to do a move on the outside of Russell Cow in turn 1. Couldn't quite make it happen. There's more GT traffic coming up here. That looks like Daniel Gralty and a couple other cars up there as well. Here's a good battle between Todd Carver and Colin McLean. And looks like McLean's going to go around the outside. Todd Carver seems to be a bit slow right now. Yeah, and he's staying on the apron, so he has some sort of issue.
Yeah, that's not a typical corner cutting issue right now. He is slow. He must have had some contact somewhere because it's too early to be running out of fuel, at least I hope anyway, and no corners to be cut in that section there. So it looks like Todd has got some damage, and we'll probably be bringing him to the pits here. Still a long way to go to the pits, though.
Here's a pretty good battle right here. This is John Kelly and Daniel Gralty. This is the battle for 14th. And we know that Daniel Gralty qualified in 11th, so he's had some sort of issue somewhere. And he looks like he's going to make a move up into the braking zone for the chicane, and he'll get it done. Nice move there. It looks like John Kelly took a little bit too much of that corner. He might get a time penalty there to have to make up for it.
Yeah, it's a battle of the flags right there. Irish flag getting past the American flag on top of those two cars there. Again, Daniel Gralty sponsored by Murphy's Irish Pub, which I really wish an Irish pub would sponsor me, and no need for money, just as much product as I could possibly drink. There's John Kuzland. I don't see a lot of him so far this race in the 27 CTC Cadillac there. Perennial runner in the lead class. This year he's dropped back to the Cadillac for a new challenge. But remember last season John Kuzland was the master of fuel economy. Right now he's a little further back in the Cadillac pack, so I'm not sure if he can still work his same fuel economy magic here or if it'll have the same effect as it did in the Daytona Prototypes and Le Mans, but we'll see in short order here.
We've got a battle between Tim McLeish and Gilles Murat. This is for 11th and 12th. Oh, and just behind we have Brent Bryles, who has had a couple issues this race, but he's managed to stay in, and it looked like he's avoided damage on his car, so that is good news for him. He's still in it and battling with still just under an hour to go, so there's plenty of time for him to make positions up. Now we're going to take a look at Lauren Bateman's car. He's currently chasing down Kenny Coughlin, running in 7th place, and both of the CT. This is Lauren Bateman. We've seen traditionally up the field a little bit farther, so Daytona presenting a different challenge for him, and he's coping with it the best he can. We get to see Todd Carver currently in the pits and getting some damage repaired. They haven't retired the car yet, which is good. So he'll hopefully get on the, hopefully make the best of this and not. I doubt he'll be able to make it. He'll have to go into some major fuel saving mode right now if he wants to try and make it to the end. I'd really be stretching it, but hopefully he can try and play that to his advantage. Timothy Stoll, meanwhile, trying to go around the outside again in turn 1, and he's able to get up alongside Russell Cow as they head down in the front straight into turn 1, but Russell Cow just too good on the brakes as they brake for turn 1, and Stoll not able to do it around the outside. Yeah,
this is a pretty tight battle here. I mean, I think what happened at the beginning of the race there was Timothy Stoll looked a little squirrely in those first couple laps. I mean, obviously he had the pace, started this race on pole position there, but it wasn't until Russell got past where he kind of found his legs a little bit and it started rattling off lap times. And now that they've hit traffic, they're really battling it out right now as he's coming behind the 24 gate, Kenny Coughlin, as he goes high on the track there, letting the Daytona Prototypes go low for him. Typically you let the Daytona Prototypes go high, but the gap was open and they went for it. But Tim Stoll really trying to force Russell into a mistake here as they enter traffic.
Yeah, and the traffic just seems to be getting heavier and heavier for them. They're coming up to more of what we would consider the lead cars now. They've just made their way past Lauren Bateman, who's currently running in 7th. Oh, and that looks like Chuck Chandler's stopped there on the straightaway. That means that he was going to miss the chicane, and so he just cut through and decided to take the time penalty. But that's better than trying to force your car into the chicane and then having some incidents. And oh wow, that was a close move there. Looked like Daniel Coroni was slow coming out of the chicane, and that allowed John Middleton to get his way by. That moves him up into 4th place. And so looks like Daniel Coroni had some sort of incident. It looked like he might have been pulling onto the apron there, so he might have had some sort of turn 1 takes another victim. That's Julio Palacio spinning it coming out of turn 1, and looks like putting some heavy damage on the nose of his car.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Julio. He was running pretty far up the field and looked like he was up in 6th place there. And actually the entire Cadillac field right down to about 10th position was in a very, very good position, holding on to each other rather nicely, which you don't always see in a lot of tracks. And I think that has a lot to do with the oval part of it, allowing guys to kind of draft and hold on to the cars in front.
And the group of Murat McLeish and Briles still grouped together very closely and still in the same order. The last we saw them, looks like that was Jeremy Burris just behind. So he's obviously been able to recover from the earlier incident that he's had and get back in the fight. And that would be Burris, who's currently running in 12th at the moment. So little work to do to catch back up, but there's still 3 cars that are right in front of him for the taking if he's got the pace.
Yeah, that's one thing here. It looks like we're starting to, some cars are starting to separate from each other a little bit. As you can see, Timothy Stoll is still holding on to the draft of Russell Cow, so he's not going to let him get much further, more than half a second apart, unless he catches a run of traffic in some of the tighter sections here. But the thing with Daytona, as opposed to some of the other tracks that we run on in these series, is there's really not a series of corners that you get stuck behind a slower car. Really, the Daytona Prototype coming off any corner behind a Cadillac should be able to get by him going into the next corner, more or less. Some tracks like Suzuka, for instance, or any of those, I'm trying to think of the other tracks we've been to already this year, like Mid-Ohio, where you have a series of corners that just kind of one after another. It's almost impossible to get past a slower car. Just not the case here.
Yeah, and I think part of that is that we have these long oval sections for these Daytona Prototypes to really stretch their legs and pass multiple Cadillacs on before they even have to get to any corner. So hopefully that that really won't cause any issue for them. Oop, as I do a little dirt tracking.
Yeah, it was Muniz going off the track there, losing a few positions, but no damage at this point here, at least not that we saw in that incident anyway. Alright, going back to a big Daytona Prototype battle. We've got Gilles Murat leading a pack here with Brent Briles, Tim McLeish, and looks like probably Jeremy Burris following up behind them there. And
Brent Briles is able to pull up a position on Tim McLeish, so that will move him up into 11th, or 10th spot rather. So Brent Briles back up into top 10, which is good, and you can see that looks like Jeremy Burris has caught up quite a bit. He's closed the gap between himself and the rest of this pack, and he's going to be on the outside. Probably won't be able to get it done here, but he's going to have a chance as they go around onto the out. Well, I guess I take that back. He made Tim McLeish break a little bit more going into turn 6, and he was able to get it done on the outside, so that's a great maneuver. And we'll jump on board with Carlos Passos, working his way back up into 8th place currently.
Yeah, you're actually able to get a pretty good run coming off of that corner there, going onto the oval, coming basically out of the infield section. Going really tight inside might be shorter and a little bit quicker, but you're able to carry a little bit more speed if you stick to the outside, so making passes there are definitely possible, especially in our class, and Carlos's rear wing is not pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to be hurting his speed too much, although he is obviously going to be getting some draft on the cars in front of him to help him out there. I'd have to wonder what his top speed is like if he was in clean air all by himself. But that moves up, with that pass into turn 1, that moves Passos up another position up into 7th. So he is slowly but surely climbing his way back up to the front of the Daytona Prototype field. And there's still 15 minutes left in the race, so plenty of time for him to get back up to the front if he has the speed. You can see Jeremy Burris is looking to get back up into the front. He's already made one pass on Tim McLeish as they head back into the infield section. He is looking very, very racy, trying to get past Joseph Moret in that number 31 SSQ Auto SRN machine. And there's going to be opportunities coming up. See if he can't pull off another outside pass into turn 6. Probably not going to happen. He's a little bit farther back this time.
Here's that corner we were talking about before. I made the outside pass. We take a few different lines going through here onto the oval, and it's actually a very difficult transition, especially because you want to be, when you go through a lot of those corners, you're sliding a little bit, but you don't want to be sliding the car going up the transition onto the oval, because whatever tire catches the oval first will kind of rotate the car around, either rotate it or push it in an understeer, so both are not ideal as well. They split on either side of Dan Giralty there, and Burris goes down the inside of Gilles Moret. That was a Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher on, oh geez, I can't remember his name now. Well, whoever, 2000 at Spa in F1, one of the more famous Hakkinen passes on Schumacher there, but pretty tight move by Jeremy Burris to get another position.
Well, he had the run and didn't want to give it up going into the chicane, and just trusted that Daniel Giralty would brake a little bit earlier and let those two guys go by. And we know that Giralty is a good solid driver, and that can always count on him to be reliable and safe. And he obviously saw that those guys were battling hard. He wasn't at the moment, so he braked a little bit early and let those guys get by. And Carlos Passos making up another position. He's up to P6 in his class, currently fighting his way through some GT traffic. And you can see Julio Palacio, who spun and got some damage on the front of his car earlier, coming out of turn 1, still out there running. And he's currently he's out of the top 12, so I can't give a specific number.
He's in 8th position.
Is he? Oh, I missed him. Okay, yeah, so he's, despite that spin that he had in turn 1, and despite the damage he's received, he's up and fighting in the top 10, so good job for Julio Palacio.
Yeah, I think he was fortunate to hit that wall head on, because the one thing to get bodywork damage here, and obviously it'll slow you down in a straight line, your aerodynamics won't be as efficient, but if you can keep that contact off the 4 corners, like your 4 tires, then and your car's driving straight, then more or less you can drive at a reasonable speed. The issue comes in when you bend your suspension a little bit. Sure, your speed will go down, but also your handling becomes incredibly unpredictable, and it's a much more frustrating prospect to do that. As Brett Briles trying to come in on Anthony Muniz, they both miscommunication there, and Briles hard into the tires. That will unfortunately end Brent's race. That's that will bend more than one corner there.
Yeah. Looks like he has managed to get himself stuck in the tire wall there. So no chance of pulling it back to the pits and hoping to gain some repairs.
Timothy Johnson to get a run on Anthony Muniz. This is for 10th position right now. Johnson on the outside, Muniz to the inside. We'll see how it goes into turn 1. Muniz maintaining a slight advantage right now, but under pressure from an attack from the outside, it's kind of easy to miss a braking point, which he did not do, and is able to hold the position, and Johnson's going to have to wait another corner, but he is still attacking pretty hard right now. Nice skull on the side of that number 18 machine there for Timothy Johnson. Somewhat intimidating to those racing side by side with them. I think Anthony was focusing on other things at the time there, but nonetheless a really very neat paint scheme going on there with Timothy Johnson's car.
I guess I'm just lucky I don't have 3 monitors yet to be able to see that when he was side by side with me.
Yeah, it's all about focus at this point in the race here. You don't worry about what's on the cars you're racing with. It's actually racing with all these guys here myself. A lot of these things I don't notice at all while I'm driving out there. I recognize roughly the colors of the car. I know the number. I know who I'm racing. But some of these details you definitely do not pick up while you're racing hard with these guys. So Stephen Clark's in the pits right now, so I don't know if this is the start of the Cadillac pit stops. I don't know what the actually, Anthony, what are the the pit stop window like for these Cadillacs?
I think he could make it now with 46 minutes left. If you fill it up, I think you can make it now. I know that my strategy was to pretty much fill it up and then run the tank dry and then just fill up what I needed. I think I was planning to pit around 30 minutes left, give a little bit lighter tank of fuel in the second stint, but I can see there's a few, it looks like there might be a couple cars in the pits. That might have been just him exiting the pits. But yeah, I think he can make it now. So that might be the, there's a few multiple strategies you could go with, but I think he's choosing to pit early and then have a very long second stint.
Yeah, it's also the Daytona Prototypes too, is because of the nature of the track itself. I mean, there could be a variation of pit strategies. I think we're technically in the window where you can make it to the end. However, you will very rarely see a driver pitting before the halfway mark, which for those of you guys watching at home will be when your clock reaches 37.5 minutes, will be the halfway point of this race. Yep. Being a 75-minute race, and that'll be when you expect to see most of the Daytona Prototypes pulling in. However, some of them might be pushing their fuel for quite a bit, so you might see pit stops as late as 25 minutes left in this race.
Oh, and, oh, well, that was Mike Taylor having a few issues there. Oh, and we're on board with him right now, and he is quite slow.
Looks like
and I'm guessing he was just giving up, yeah, just giving up the time because he had issues going through the chicane there. So having to give some time back, and that's going to cost him a position to Jeremy Burris. Jeremy Burris has worked his way back up into 8th spot in the class. And we'll take a look at the leaders in the class, and still within a half a second of each other, and it's been this way the entire race.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive. I mean, this is Russell Cow has been consistently quick on every track we've run so far. However, we've noticed, especially in the first race there at Spa, it was Mike Kelly who really took the fight to Russell and actually had the pace of him in the race. Now it's Turn 1 Hero's teammate Timothy Stahl having his crack at Russell here. Russell obviously winning the last race at Road America, but oh, Anthony Muniz has gone wide. Wall of death around the outside, does not hit anything, but loses a position to Timothy Johnson. So hopefully he's able to recover there. And like I said, Anthony was saying about his fuel strategy there, going really heavy on fuel might have an adverse effect on the tires here. That's one thing we don't really get a full appreciation of is some tracks you can run the tires to the ground and it's really fuel's your limitation, the weight there. But other tracks you'll wear your tires out well before the end of the tank. So it's really hard to balance, especially if you don't have the resources to do a lot of testing here, which some guys are able to run a little bit more than others on these configurations, as Dan Gralty has made what looks like a scheduled pit stop here, and will come back out of the track in, I believe, his 14th position.
Yeah, he should definitely be able to make it to the end of the race, so that was most likely a scheduled stop for Daniel Gralty. I know, just judging on my experience, by the end of my stint, my tires were definitely worn out. This track seemed to be really brutal on the Cadillac tires, and you do lose quite a bit of pace on worn tires with the Cadillac, so that is definitely something to consider in your race strategy. Jules Moret going to have to defend on the inside, and he's under attack from Tim McLeish. Tim McLeish looks like he has a good run. He's managed to get around the outside for the when they hit across the line, but not able to do it into turn 1. Moret able to defend in the braking zone, but it looks like the group that was together, oh well, we know what happened to the group. Jeremy Burris has the pace, got by these guys, and then continued on up the field, and then Brent Browse having an incident in the chicane on the back straight and having to retire his car.
Now we got the leaders going in. Timothy Stahl's going to make another run to the outside here. Seems to be the pattern we got lap after lap. We'll just see how it comes into turn 1 here, but whoa, he's going to make a really hard push on the outside. It looks pretty intense. Will he be able to hold it?
Wow.
Well, that is, these guys are fighting hard. I mean, there's still more than half the race left, and that is a Tim is not waiting around. He's decided he needs to get to the front, and he needs to get there now before he gets to the pit stop. So look for this battle to intensify in the next 5 to 10 minutes here before they get to their first stops.
Yeah, Tim really pushed it into that braking zone there for turn 1. It looks like I thought he might try and make a light braking maneuver on the inside there of turn 5, try and sneak his way by, but I wonder if Tim Stoll thinks that he's being held up. I wonder if he feel, you know, as a driver, he's been behind Russell Cowell for, you know, pretty much the entire race. I mean, he got a great jump on the start and led a couple laps, and then he was passed. I wonder if he feels now that he's being held up and that he wants to get by Russell Cowell as fast as possible. Might be something to consider trying to...
Pit stop for Gilles Moret. Looks like a regular pit stop.
Yep, so this is going to be... sorry, you can see there's a couple other Cadillacs there in the pits. Could be for repair and damage, not sure. But yeah, we'll jump back on board with... oh, this is Jerry Morsdorf, so not back on board, but we'll go on board. Get a look at the current leader for the Cadillacs, James Cullen. He currently has a lead. Ooh, and that is John Middleton there, having a half spin coming out of turn 6. Here we go. Here's back with the battle on Tim Stoll once again going to go for an outside maneuver in turn 1. He's much farther along this time, but I just don't think he can quite get it done. He goes wide coming out, carried a little bit more speed. Ooh, close call there for Timothy Stoll. Got a little bit too much speed, almost spun the car into the wall.
He's lost the gap though, so I mean, could that play an effect when they get back onto the oval? Now, within about a second and a half, he could still kind of pull up, and if his actual absolute lap time within the draft is similar enough, he'll pull up within a second and a half. However, if Russell's had even like a tenth or two per lap advantage, that might give them the opportunity to actually pull away.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really been able to see yet. Is Timothy Stoll able to stay so close to Cal because he's getting assistance from the draft on the the long straights of the circuit, or does he have that pace outright? And that will be something now that we see Timothy Stoll. He's fallen about a second and a half back. He's currently being shown 1.2 seconds, 1.3 back from the leader. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Pit stops could be coming up very soon for those guys, as Jeremy Burris now in the... No, not Jeremy Burris, Mike Taylor in the pits. This, I'm assuming, will be a scheduled stop for him. This will be his one and only as he gets on tires and fuel.
Now, the one thing I meant to talk about a few laps ago before the racing got really intense there was the tire wear issue. Just hold on a second here. We'll just let these guys go through turn 1 here to see what happens.
Well, you can see Timothy Stoll already back under the rear wing of Russell Cowell.
Yeah, he didn't. Russell Cowell did not gap him enough. And we're coming up in Anthony Muniz now. See if Stoll can use it as a pick. Well, that's close going into turn 1, and I don't think Stoll has enough right here. He's really going to hope Russell Cowell makes a mistake going into turn 1, but Russell's not biting at all. Back to what I was saying with the tires is, for those of you who race a Cadillac, know that there is basically, it's not so much tire wear, it's tire temperature, because there's a golden lap you can get with the Cadillac on fresh tires. It has nothing to do with the wear, because the wear isn't really there. It's if you can keep the tires temperatures low enough. For some reason, a low tire temperature here gives them much more grip. Once the tires start to heat up, you start losing grip, and that happens basically halfway through your first hot lap. So you really want to keep those tire temperatures down. And the longer you go on the run and the more your tires go a little bit, you start sliding a little bit more. The temperature goes up, which makes you slide a little bit more, which makes the temperature go up a little bit more. And it gets into a vicious cycle where eventually your tires are way overheated and you start losing grip. And the longer you run, and the longer you're in that situation, the more you lose. So it's not so much, you can theoretically get away with not making a pit stop for tires, at least anyway, but you really do need to slow the car down, so it's better just to put on fresh tires, let those new tires have cooler temperatures, and go on from there.
And Gilles Moret looking to go around the outside, and he will. He'll go around the outside there of Mike Taylor, went into the chicane on the back straight, and I'm not really sure that was too heavily contested. I know we saw Mike Taylor just come out of the pits this lap, so he is on an out lap getting his pace back up, and I'm assuming that I'm pretty sure we haven't seen Gilles Moret make a pit stop yet, so he'll hopefully he'll be looking to jump him in the pit lane.
And also, you know, just noticing on the timing screen here, remembering now I'm in the pits after having done something stupid, so I don't think I'm actually going to be coming out of the pits, and we'll see my name drop down the leaderboard rather quickly.
Yeah, I did catch a glimpse there with a fairly severe bent wing. So unfortunate. Brian Carey was having a good race And Timothy Stoll trying to shove his way up on the inside. He's pushed Russell Kyle wide in turn 5. Not going to quite, again, not going to quite happen. Oh, it was turn 3 rather, but still not going to quite happen. And he's tried to use the traffic there to his advantage. I don't think it really helped him at all. And again, just not quite able to find a way back around. But I definitely think that Timothy Stoll does have genuine pace to compete with Russell Kyle. We saw him catch right back up fairly quickly after dropping about a second and a half back after half spinning his car in turn 1. So that should be a battle that will most likely come down to the end of this race. Marty Jeffries pulling into the pit stop and losing a couple positions, so he had guys very, very close on the circuit. He'll drop down to at least 6th place while he is in refueling and changing tires. And we'll ride on board now with Russell Kyle, and he's got Timothy Stoll just 0.2 seconds, and Russell Kyle going to be coming into the pits for his pit stop.
Anticipate Timothy Stoll to be right in his rear bumper.
Oh, and Russell Kyle, oh my goodness, that was so close. Nearly lost it, trying to get his car slowed down enough to get into the pit lane without speeding. And that was just, I know these guys are racing hard, but that was probably a little bit too aggressive. I know he doesn't want to get passed by Timothy Stoll in the pits, but if you crash in the pits because you're too aggressive coming in, that would be just embarrassing.
Hey, he kept it off the wall. I mean, that was probably a little bit of a pant-crapping moment right there,
yeah.
But he was able to pull it off and continue on. As you can see from the front of Julio Palacio's car there in the pits, that he had a moment on track where he wasn't quite as successful at avoiding the wall, but judging by how he's run since that incident, hasn't hurt him all that much. And the dead excitement of an iRacing pit stop as we watch a car sit there with, look at his pit crew just sitting behind the wall there, just watching him, motionless.
And Timothy Stoll choosing to stay out another lap as Russell Kyle makes his pit stops. Russell Kyle looks like he comes back out in 2nd place. It's going to be, he's about 35 seconds off of Timothy Stoll right now, but that just shows that these guys were running very hard, and I'm pretty sure all of the guys that were trying to chase them down have had some sort of incident which put them out of the running. We know that there was a Mike Kelly and Patrick Spence had a coming together, and then Daniel Quaroni had some sort of drama, and then Brian Carey had some sort of drama, and all the guys that were running in 3 and 4th place have dropped out. Currently those positions are being filled by Jeremy Burris and Tim McLeish.
Tim Stoll's in the pits.
Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed about my drama. I was passing Cadillac and on the outside, I think around, what was it, turn 5, and just walked out of braking and put it in the wall.
Actually, I was right behind Dan at the time there, and if I remember, I think he just put it off into the wall there, as much like the same as I did coming out of the apron a few laps later. We were having a pretty good battle at the time, but unfortunately both our races ended very unceremoniously. But Timothy Stoll still in the pits here as Russell Kyle is coming around the track. He's gaining up time on him, but we'll see how he was able to handle those laps, because Russell Kyle, there he is coming around. Timothy Stoll's coming out of the pits right now, and I don't know where it's judging pit out by, if it's by the wall here or not, but it looks like he's back in 1st place. Russell Kyle is back in first place.
And it looks like Timothy Stoll being shown close at 2 seconds back.
Yeah, the thing with that is Russell Kyle, pitting a lap earlier, was able to take advantage of fresh tires. And as I mentioned, the Cadillac having the golden lap, the Daytona Prototype, it's not as severe as effect as it is in the Cadillac, but that first lap is always the quickest. So by pitting a lap early, the Timothy Stoll, I think it was 2 laps early actually, he was able to put in a quick lap there, maybe outside of some traffic, and was able to gap Timothy a little bit.
Yeah, that is another thing to consider, that it could have been pit strategy that played a part there. Russell Kyle choosing to come in at the right time and avoid any traffic, and then if Timothy Stoll was held up even for a corner on the infield. Oh, and that looks like John Rasudos there going off after just coming out of the pit. So that, or yeah, he just came out of the pits a couple laps ago. So that is unfortunate. Looks like he's having currently being shown to the lap down, so he's had some troubles earlier in the race. But yeah, Timothy Stoll might have just been, oh well, I was gonna say might have been held up, but he's already back around and challenging on the outside as they head through NASCAR turn 3 and 4. And do you think Russell Kyle had to give some time back there for cutting the chicane?
It's possible. I think that Timothy just had a good run through traffic, perhaps, but it's one of those things where they just seem to suck right back up to each other, and Russell is probably thinking, oh, I've got a gap now, and oh, Timothy Stoll's going to really try around the outside. Can he hold it? No, it's not going to happen. Russell's not going to make a mistake. He hasn't yet, but Russell's probably thinking in his head, man, I can get 2 seconds into breathing space, and the next thing he knows, he's side by side with him again, thinking this is never going to end.
Well, it hasn't. Timothy Stoll continues the battle exactly where they left off, challenging on the outside pretty much every lap that they complete.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this could go on all race.
Yeah, it has no sign of stopping now, and looks like Timothy Johnston having to give up some time for cutting the chicane as a couple cars go by fairly quickly, so he'll have to fight his way back up. He's currently being shown in 12th place, so he's having a pretty good solid race so far.
Yeah, Timothy Johnston, just a quick note about him, he's one of our, like to throw in the same kind of bracket as like Mike Kelly, John Kelly. They run every series they possibly can.
Yeah.
He's currently involved in our Formula One series, the Grand Prix Championship. He's involved in this series. He's actually comes from our the NASCAR series, a couple series that we run here, the Stars and Power series. I don't have all the details on those because I don't run them myself, but I know that's where he comes from. Circle tracker primarily, but doing very, very well on these road courses here and improving quite a bit. And then drivers like obviously John Kelly and Mike Kelly, kind of the same mold, able to just kind of run whatever and whenever and just really enjoy their racing. So good to see guys like Timothy, Mike, and John, and all the rest of our multifaceted ISRA league members running in all these series and showing up pretty well. Yeah, with about half hour left of the track there, just a other quick shout out to our title sponsor Z1 Sim Wheel. As Dan mentioned at the top of the broadcast, they've got some new features with a kind of be able to port the software outside of buying their hardware devices, which is a pretty neat feature, as well as some other new upgrades that the principal, Russell Hodgson, is really working hard to make as many improvements as possible, which is a fantastic product. As well as those of you watching who are maybe coming across YouTube and just seeing this for the first time. Hopefully there's one or two of you at least anyway. You'll see the link below this video here. Visit israleague.com to get all the details on how maybe you can be a part of this fantastic series as we're rushing right up to the back of the battle. Looks like, no, it's Timothy Stoll now.
It is.
In the lead. So I was just about to say Russell Cow and Timothy Stoll battling first and second, but it's switched places, and now it's Russell's turn to chase him down to see how this one can end up. And like I say, if you want to be a part of this, because it's fantastic to watch, it's even more fantastic to drive. So check us out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we missed how Timothy Stoll was able to get by, but he has and currently has about a 0.4 second gap. Now this will be interesting with the roles reversed. Let's see if Russell Cow is able to put the same amount of pressure on Timothy Stoll that Stoll put on him when they were racing for the opposite positions. They're coming up on the GT class leader of James Cullen right now. He's got about a 4-second gap over Eduardo Prado, who is currently in second. And Timothy Stoll having to give up a bit of time there as they head through the turn 2S. And Cow going to look around, go on the outside. They touch, and Stoll spins in turn 3. Wow, and Russell Cow able to get a big gap after that incident there. Couldn't exactly see what happened because we were on board, but there was some sort of contact there. Stoll goes spinning, and Eduardo Prado is able to catch right back up on James Cullen, so I'm guessing that's where the contact came from.
Yeah, that's one of those things I was just about to say, that Timothy Stoll is teammates with James Cullen there, the leader of class, and hoping to get a little bit easier path around, and James, unfortunately, was just racing really hard with Eduardo there, not able to give him as much space as Timothy wanted, and Russell Cow back into the lead. He's got about just under a 5-second gap on Tim Stoll now, so let's see what Tim can do with this right now. That's really unfortunate for Stoll, as he looked like he was motoring ahead and possibly on his way to a victory. I know it was early days now, but we'll see what he can do with this 5-second gap he has to make up.
Yeah, and that's really closed up the battle in the Cadillac class as well. James Cullen was leading with about a 4.5 second gap. And that gap with the incident with his teammate, Timothy Stoll, has brought the battle down. Eduardo Prado now just 0.4, 0.5 seconds back. And then Mark Payne as well, just 0.4 seconds back of Prado. So this is a very close battle for the GT class now after that incident. And Russell Cow now has a 5.3 second gap over Timothy Stoll. So there's still 26 minutes left. That's quite a bit of time for Stoll to make up that distance if he has the pace. But I think he might have to have some assistance with the traffic and hope that Cow catches a few GT cars in the infield and gets held up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think he took any damage in that. I didn't see any contact. I don't know if anyone got into him from behind because you really don't get to see that from the camera angle we're shown. But assuming his car is undamaged and you know, the relative pace. That being said, I mean, Russell Cow is pretty quick himself, and even if Timothy was able to get a bunch of time, I mean, 25 minutes seems like a lot, but he'll need to catch some breaks in order to close that gap down.
Yeah, but we saw how long it took for Timothy Stoll to get around Russell Cow in the first place after he was passed within the first couple laps of the race. It basically took him the entire first stint. I mean, he didn't get by until after their pit stops. And Russell Cow is proving to be a very, very difficult driver to pass. And so that's going to be a lot of work for him to get by if he's even able to catch back up the 4.7 seconds that he has between himself and Stoll. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And maybe it was James used to being the center of attention in some of these broadcasts, because normally he's got a pretty good battle up front in the, well, he seems to be up front in the Cadillacs, but now it's back to him and Eduardo Prado now joining him up in the front, battling for the lead. Cullen, of course, in the lead right now, but Prado looks like he's got the pace and could potentially take that away from him, but it will not be easy.
Yeah, well, now that he's in the draft of Cullen, it's going to be much easier for him to stick with him as they navigate their way through the infield. The gap's kind of fluctuated. Right now he's about 0.7 seconds behind, and it's gone down as we saw. He was basically on the back bumper, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of pace he had. We haven't seen much of a challenge for the lead in the GT class thus far this race, so it'll be interesting to see now that Eduardo Prado is up and has James Cullen in his sights. Does he have the pace to get by?
Well, one thing I'm noticing about watching these guys right now is I have taken a few cracks at driving this Cadillac. It's a very difficult car to drive, and I watch things like this and I think, oh, you know, it doesn't look all that hard, but these guys are obviously pedaling this thing around pretty darn effectively, and it is not as easy as it's being made out to look right here. It's a very, very difficult car to get a handle on. I'm not sure how setup dependent it is, but it's a very torque driven car, rear wheel drive obviously, but unless you've so you either get it or you don't, and if you don't, it becomes a real handful. So kudos to these guys to be able to drive it up front, to drive it as consistently as they have. Actually, I think James Cullen was not even the first ISRA member to run this car, but one of the first iRacing members to drive the cars. He's able to get a test early on in the process down at the Long Beach Grand Prix before they debuted the car in the iRacing service. So not to say that early experience helped James one way or the other, but probably didn't hurt at all. So there he is with Eduardo Prado firmly in his draft here, and I think he's probably going to just need to have a mistake or something from James. As James gets a little squirrely in turn one there. As I said the word mistake, he made a small one, but Eduardo's going to need a bigger one than that.
Yeah, right now these guys seem to be just kind of following in each other's drafts, kind of seeing how these guys are running. Not really anyone able to put a challenge on, although these guys are running basically nose to tail right now. No one seems to be able to get quite close enough to try and stick a move on one of each other. We saw Stoll and Cal doing earlier in the race. Although Mark Payne looks like he's able to get right up on the back of Eduardo Prado, so we might see a challenge here for second place.
Now, the thing with, as you can see, Mark Payne is really close into this battle here. We haven't seen a lot of Mark Payne or John Rizzuto's for that matter, and that's because for some reason our sideboard director does not like drivers when they put a 0 in front of their car's numbers. Just a bias that his heartless brain or heartless whatever has, but luckily Mark is on the tail end of this battle here, and it is a three-way battle with James Cullen, Eduardo Prado, and Mark Payne running 1, 2, 3.
And now, to be fair, the director's perfectly happy to do it. For whatever reason, the iRacing software doesn't like to do it.
Yes, when I say director, it is a combination of various factors. Nothing to do with the programming of the director, which is very expertly done by Daniel Peroni, who is able to, for those of you new to these broadcasts here, may recognize that iRacing has a most exciting feature on the replays. However, this has nothing to do with it. This is all a self-made program that Daniel has put together that basically self-directs the races, points out the exciting battles, as we're watching right here, a very tight battle for the lead. There are, as we just pointed out, certain random quirks between the software that doesn't quite jive, but 95% of the time here it's the director does a very good job. However, whenever the director does make a mistake, it's very easy to make fun of a cybernetic director.
It might help if Mark Payne were to actually set his number for the Cadillac. I think he pretty much comes to every race we do with a different one.
No, he's actually been 09 this entire season.
Has he? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a change from seasons past.
Well,
but see, every time he does this, every time you see his name come up here, right here, that's the software trying to get on board with him, but for whatever reason, it just won't click.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to sequence some of the numbers there when you get the some of the M1 and then 01. I guess would be iRacing. It's a little confused with that. However, actually, I know Mark Payne has chosen the 09 here because I think his preferred number 79 is actually my number. So I know he's tried to get that a few times. So knowing that. But because that's the one that's assigned to me. If he's had his cars assigned to that number and I'm already in the session, then he'll just kind of default to whatever, which has a cascade effect when you're joining iRacing that we all try to set our numbers before the session. However, if someone has taken your number will get reset to something else, and if that number is someone else's number, then the whole thing kind of snowballs from there. So it's just one of the quirks of the iRacing software when we're trying to set our numbers for these series here. However, Eduardo Prado, number 30, James Cullen, number 56, and Mark Payne, number 09, are all legitimate numbers as one mistake there. And we join back to Muniz and Johnson battling for, looks like 11th position right now. That's one thing, too. We saw the heat of the battle remote, like up front there with Cullen, Prado, and Payne. However, it's equally intense back in the field, battling for every position all the way through. Yes, and see the director. He so badly wants to show Mark Payne, but iRacing is just not letting him.
Yeah, well, Mark Payne he's very close. He's been challenging Prado quite a bit, and he's basically on the back bumper. And this is something that James Cullen likes to see in his rearview mirror, because that now that Prado is having to be a little bit more defensive against Mark Payne, that's going to allow him to start to pull away from those two guys. The gap's fluctuating right now between 0.7 and a second between Cullen and Prado, as Mark Payne has been able to start trying to challenge Eduardo Prado for second place in class. So we'll have to see how that plays out, and if Prado's able to put the pressure back on James Cullen.
Yep, that's is that Dan Gralty going off the track there? And there goes Dan Gralty. It looked like his colored car, and John Kuzlin very slow up front, so maybe they had it coming together there. This has turned into a battle for geez, I can't count. 9th place right now as John Kuzlin has come back into Johnson and Muniz.
Jump on board now with Eduardo Prado as they head into the turn 1 braking zone. Ooh, and Prado very, very aggressive on the brakes. Oh, when he gets sideways, looks like Mark Payne runs into him. There's nowhere for Payne to go. Not sure.
Well, it looks like he got by.
Yeah, he was able to get by, but I was able to hear a little bit of contact. I'm not sure how hard it was and if it caused any damage, but all drivers able to continue on right now. We'll have to see if any damage was caused from that incident, but nevertheless that has separated James Cullen from those guys by at least about 3 seconds, and Eduardo Prado has dropped about 5 seconds off the lead, so that's definitely separated the battle in the Cadillacs with just over 16 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's one of those corners there we mentioned at the top of the broadcast that it's extremely difficult to get the car slowed down for there. And we also mentioned about how the tires, how they heat up, how they get a little bit more difficult to drive. Now you factor those two things together, if that corner is difficult on lap 1, you can imagine it'd be how deep into this stint they are in these tires. Each lap you go around, it becomes more and more difficult, so the chances of an incident down there in turn 1 just increase all the way through the race, so you really have to be careful. And Eduardo Prado, one of the better drivers in our series there, if he can get caught out, anyone can get caught out there. So unfortunately, we're going to have to look for a few more incidents going in there as Muniz is going down the inside of Johnson. And if he can hold on there so you can see the car wiggling there. Is one thing actually from the outside I want to point out going into that corner there. It looked like Muniz from outside eye. I mean, he basically slid a little bit. Car wiggled a little bit, and you think it's totally under control, but I guess from inside the cockpit there, that little wiggle is probably absolutely terrifying as you're trying to slow the car down, and if you see a little bit of a wiggle from inside the car, it looks like a big wiggle, and it feels like a big wiggle.
Yeah, it's definitely a big challenge when you're that close that you want to push your braking point as late as possible to try and gain a position, but also when you're that close, if you lock your brakes up, which can be quite easy to do in this Cadillac, you're going to go sliding into the guy that's in front of you and cause a very large wreck. So that's just that little wiggle that translates into a big wiggle in that cockpit is definitely something that you don't want to happen when you're trying not to crash into the guy in front of you.
Yeah, I don't know. This is broadcast being recorded on the Sunday, the 23rd, and for those of you who follow Formula One and watched the race this morning, the incident with Schumacher and Jean-Eric Verne, where Schumacher just got a little bit of cold tires, low ride height, locked the brakes up, and just the amount of force in that accident, which shouldn't have been much of a speed difference, but it was just missing his brake point by just a little bit, and massive accident. As Muniz is now, I know he's still running, looked like he'd slowed down a little bit, but just caught him right off the exit of the corner there, so looks a little bit slower when you're not battling for position, I guess. But he is, as he's drafting up on John Kuzlin right now. This is going to be the battle for 9th position, having just taken 10th position from Timothy Johnson. Here we go back into the corner of doom right now. It's just, it's turning all the way. I mean, you're braking. There's no straight part to that braking zone. I mean, you're braking and turning all at the same time, and it's super difficult to get right. Like for those people who are not racing people, I mean, there probably isn't a lot of them watching this video who are not racing people, but if there's anyone out there knowing that braking and turning at the limit of a Heejin is one of the most difficult things to do, because not only is there a horizontal load, lateral load, I guess, side to side, but there's a longitudinal force, which is front and back, like the slowing down. So easy enough to lock a brake going in a straight line, easy enough to spin out going too fast to the corner, but if you combine those two negative results together, that you can lock the brake, spin out, do whatever, and you have to manage both of them at the same time. Extremely difficult.
And Jeremy Burris has managed to climb his way back through the field after having some troubles early on in this race. He's currently running in 5th place, and we can see that he's managed to chase down Marty Jeffries for 4th place. Marty Jeffries also having a great race. Seeing him up in the top 5 is excellent. And we can see that Eduardo Prado has managed to catch up to Mark Payne after the incident that he had in turn 1, losing quite a bit of time over leader James Cullen. And I'm just wondering if the bit of damage is hindering Mark Payne a little bit. He hasn't managed to catch up to James Cullen at all. The gap is hovering very close to 4 seconds, and Eduardo Prado able to catch back up. And now that he's in the draft, he's going to be very, very close. You can see a bit of damage there on the driver's side door there of his Cadillac, where Mark Payne ran into him.
Now, just a quick point out here is we're not going to go back to it, I don't think, but Russell Cow has pulled about a 10-second lead on Timothy Stoll, so unfortunately it looks like that battle is over, barring any unforeseen circumstances, so this looks like the big battle right now.
Yeah, I did kind of keep an eye on that for earlier, probably with about 17 or 16 minutes left to go. It looked like Timothy Stoll might catch him. He had dropped the gap to I think just under 4 seconds, and then he had another incident somewhere on the circuit. We didn't see where, but the after that the gap dropped to what it is now. Prado looking to go on the outside there in turn 1. Both of those drivers got a little squirrely under braking. Luckily, both of them able to continue. Mark Payne maintains the second position through the corner. Eduardo Prado will have to try again on another corner. And Burris moving his way back up past Marty Jeffries. Marty Jeffries still in the top 5, but Burris moving himself up into 4th place. He still has almost 4 seconds to go before he catches Jerry Morsdorf with just 11 minutes left.
And we got Timothy Johnston reeling Anthony Muniz back, and this is a battle for 10th position right now. The gap to John Kudlin's opened up to about 2.5 seconds, so John able to stretch that back out again. But Johnson is running right up the back of Muniz right now as they're heading on to the turn 3 and 4 of the oval, and we'll see how this goes out as Prado back with Prado for behind Payne for 2nd place.
Prado's going to have a solid run here coming up into the chicane. You can see Mark Payne very much on the inside defending. Doubt that Prado will be able to get it done here. It's so difficult to pass going on the outside. I have seen it done before, but super hard to make it happen. And you can see that Mark Payne able to easily defend there on the inside, but Prado going to have the benefit of the draft, and he should be able to challenge Mark Payne going into turn 1. Most likely that will be on the inside. Well, no, Mark Payne moving up the circuit this time, and that is Eduardo Prado able to easily get by there. You think? I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, Mark Payne have to give up a bit of time for cutting the chicane there.
I don't think it didn't look like he slowed up all that much. I don't know if he got distracted or if it was calculated in some fashion, but it was very strange from my point of view anyway. He's sure battling back right now. Yeah, he's battling back very hard, right on the back bumper of Prado as they head into turn 3. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. He moved up the circuit, and it looked like that allowed Prado to just easily drive on by, and then gets back and to fight him for 2nd place. So that's very interesting. Tim McLeish in the pits late, and he's currently a lap down from the leaders. So I'm not sure if this is scheduled. He didn't quite do his fuel right earlier in the race, and he has to come in and do, So Tim McLeish didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end with 10 minutes left to go. He comes in to do a quick splash of fuel and then exit. I don't think he's not under any pressure to lose a position. Well, actually, he did drop one to Mike Taylor, who's also a lap down. But other than that, it's John Rosito's 2 laps down, so he's not going to lose any more positions after that. And we got Timothy Johnson coming up on the outside of Anthony Muniz here, and he's been able to run right around the outside, and looks like he's going to have the place. I don't know what Muniz is a little down on top speed right now, but Johnson made it look easy. He was deep on the brakes here going to turn 1. Can he hold on? And they're side by side. It's kind of hard to see where Johnson is right now, but it looks like, undercut. Very nice by Johnson, and that was a very good piece of racing. We'd like to see that one from the outside, but looks like Johnson takes it back up into 10th position. And there it goes, sliding out. That's going to cost him, and that's going to cost him even more. And there's the battle right there. Unless Muniz makes a big mistake, that's too much of a gap to drive your way back into. So Johnson making a very, very good opportunistic pass going into turn 1, coming out of turn 1, but that's it right there as we got Marty Jeffries coming into the battle here for 2nd position. And where did Eduardo Prado go? I know, I'm just thinking the same thing. It looks like he is either we're having a timing and scoring issue, and he's currently not being shown on the circuit because of a networking issue. He disappeared, so sometimes that could mean a disconnect, but sometimes it might just mean that he lost connection with the timing and scoring. Hopefully it's the latter, but his timing is not updated yet. It does not look good for Prado. Yeah, and he's still hasn't reappeared yet. And normally, if you do have if it is just a little network bug and you have a bit of something like a system lag or whatnot, you do pop back up. By now, he's still not being shown back up in front of Mark Payne. Still, I have to
I have to say that means that he's had some sort of issue and has dropped from the race. Unfortunately, that's going to elevate Mark Payne up into second place, Colin McLean up into third, who's had a fairly quiet race, but I guess that is the simulation racing version of... yes. Well, he's up to fourth now, but eventually once Ricardo Machuca falls off, he should move up into third.
Ricardo is still with us, I believe. Eduardo has dropped off that.
Oh, yes, my mistake. I don't know what I was thinking, but yes, sorry about that, yeah. Just looking at the wrong name here on the timing and scoring sheet. So yeah, but unfortunately...
At least you didn't call one of them Pedro.
Yeah. So, yes, pardon my mistake there, but... yeah, so unfortunately, I guess that is the sim racing equivalent of mechanical failure, and that'll basically decide the top two, top three, probably most of the positions in the Cadillac with that. Not really a whole lot more battles going on. Closest next would be Julio Palacio and Kenny Coughlin. There's about 3 seconds separating them right now.
By the way, for those of you listening at home, that was just a quick shout out to Mike Kelly. He'll know what I mean. Jeremy Burris is our comeback kid of the race here. He was way down at the beginning. He's worked his way up to fourth. Looks like he's about 2 seconds behind Jerry Morsdorf, so you can just see him just up the road there. So Jeremy Burris, after having a horrid first, call it 15 minutes of this race here, is battling for a podium right now, which is unbelievable when you consider where he began.
Yeah, we've seen that get... Well, I guess here's a battle in the Cadillacs. It's Julio Palacio, and... Oh, no, I guess that he would be lapping the number 42 of Ryan Huff, wouldn't he? So right now, looks like Julio Palacio, after having that incident in turn 1, spinning the car and causing making contact with the inside wall there, he's had a good comeback race as well. He's running up in 7th at the moment, and his place is pretty much decided. There's about a 3.5 second gap separating himself from the next 6th place car of Kenny Coughlin, who we jump on board with right now. But another good comeback race for him, and another good comeback race for Jeremy Burris as well, like Ryan pointed out. He's currently running in 4th for the DPs and looking to chase down Jerry Morsdorf for a podium position.
Going to act about 4 seconds behind Jerry right now, so probably caught a little bit of traffic there. So we'll see if he's able to make a run at that, but 4th position, still a fantastic result.
Yeah, especially considering that he was basically down at the rear of the class within probably 10 minutes of the opening stages of this race. So yeah, great comeback drive for Jeremy Burris.
The helicopter camera is really hustling to keep up with Kenny Coughlin here. That's a helicopter, appears to be an Apache, because that is he's keeping pretty good pace with this Kenny right now, and it's one of the benefits of having a simulated program. You can make everything as realistic as you want, but if you want a overhead camera that goes 200 miles an hour, you can have an overhead camera that goes 200 miles an hour.
And well, right on board now with Kenny Coughlin for a little bit, or well, we were. He's looking to see if he can't chase down Lauren Bateman. Oh, and Jules Moret having a spin coming out of the chicane, and that's not really going. Will that affect? No, I don't think he's going to lose anything from that. We did see another Daytona prototype go by. That was
there's
Marty
Mike
Jeffries,
chasing him down. That's his battle right there.
Yeah, so Marty Jeffries not involved in. That wasn't a pass for position with him, but Mike Taylor looking to see if he can't capitalize on that spin from Jules Moret. He's not that far back. Well, it's a couple laps left. We'll have to see what happens.
And back up front there, Timothy Stahl has actually got the lead down to under 8 seconds right now, but with 2 minutes, or just over 2.5 minutes left on the clock, that's not a lot he's going to be able to do about that. Unless, of course, Russell Cow happens to run out of fuel, which I don't think will happen, however. If it was going to happen, it would happen sooner rather than later, I guess.
Oh, and Jules Moret getting it wrong again on the infield this time, and he's going to lose a lot of time. He's going to have to spend quite a bit of time getting out of the grass there, and Mike Taylor with that mistake, is going to move up into 6th position there, not even going to have to fight around Jules Moret to make it. And Jules Moret having a pretty pristine-looking Daytona prototype there, so he's managed to keep himself off of other cars to the wall, but having some late mistakes costing him a position.
Yeah, the iRacing, unfortunately, or fortunately for Gilles, does not simulate grass stains, and he seems to have a few of those in the last couple laps here. That's one thing. It's one of the neat things about the Daytona prototype in particular that I've noticed from some races where the drivers get off on the grass, they end up digging up big swaths of grass out of there, and they have like kind of like an exploding, like it looks like someone just like puked green in the front of their car. I mean, it's just very intense sort of contact that they come in there because that front splitter is pretty low to the ground. And as I say that, Russell Cow has come across the line to give us the right white flag. So leader one more lap, which means about a minute and 40 some odd seconds for a lap in these Daytona prototypes. Call it 140, so about 1 minute 40 left, and then once we get the checkered flag, we'll start seeing what the positions work out to be. Russell Cow leading the Daytona prototypes over Timothy Stoll and Jerry Morsdorf right now. James Cullen with about a 10-second lead over Mark Payne, and Ricardo Machuca about another 40 seconds behind him. So no positions really in doubt right now as I'm looking through the field, but I mean, anything can happen here at Daytona, and we'll just have to wait and see how this thing finishes out.
Here's going to be the closest battle in the Daytona prototypes. Jeremy Burris, we're on board right now. We can see the person that he is trying to chase down right now. It's Jules Moret.
He's in his draft now. He probably got to run off that corner, so he's got a shot. They've got one full lap left, so white flag for Russell Cow, but they're just getting the white flag now, so we'll hopefully get to see how that goes.
And Colin McLean able to catch up here with Ricardo Machuca somehow. I'm not sure if Machuca had an incident somehow, but it's going to be McLean also going to have another lap to see if he can't get around Machuca for a podium in the Cadillacs. But he's pushing hard. He's going to look to see if he can't get around here, guys. They head into turn 6. Well, jump away as Russell Cow crosses the line to win the Daytona Prototype class. Also have James Cullen crossing the line to officially take the win for Cadillacs.
All right, we'll see how it comes across here. Top two have decided, but it's that third position in both classes that are up for grabs here, so we'll see how that works its way out.
Yeah, Colin McLean currently being shown about half a second off of Ricardo Machuca, so it's very, very close between those guys still.
And Burris left less than half a second behind Jerry Morsdorf right now. We'll just have to keep you updated. It's 0.3 of a second between Burris and Morsdorf. You'll have to take a look at the top
Colin
left of your
McLean is in
screen
front of Ricardo Machuca. And Machuca looks like to make a mistake. He's at 4 seconds back and dropping.
So it looks like McLean has that position, and here comes Burris. Don't think he's going to do it. Morsdorf is still ahead. They're coming up to the final corner. There you see Jerry.
He's close.
He's close, but I mean,
probably would have, if he had another lap, he might have been able to do it. But Jerry Morsdorf able to hold on for a podium position. That'll be his first podium this season for the Whoop-Ass Racing Daytona Prototype team. So great finish for them.
That was actually a fantastic finish. There was a flurry there at the beginning. Good battle of the lead for the Daytona Prototypes, but came right down to it as the Daytona Prototype top 10 that you can see there on the left. Some of the GTs waiting to finish. You can see it down to 8th position. Anthony Muniz coming home in 9th position, and there it is. Dan, take us away with the standings. Dan is not here, so Russell Cow with a pulling out a little bit.
I'm sorry, I just had my keyboard off. Yes, Russell Cow, first person to take home 2 wins with 50 points there on the board. Although Mike Kelly must have had 2 wins too. I gotta look at the scoring and figure this out. Oh, you know why? It's the dropped races factoring in, I think. Yes. And so James Cullen in a very similar situation ahead of Mark Payne, followed by Colin McLean. Lauren Bateman is the big step down, 13 points down from the leader, then Todd Carver right close to him.
Yeah, it's actually a little easier to follow the points now. The drop weeks are factored right off the bat here, so lowest result gets dropped out. Mike Kelly's had a win and I guess a second place. Unfortunately, he dropped out of this race here, so no points for him. This will be his drop week. But otherwise, the championship is shaping up rather nicely as Russell Cow with a small lead, but those Turn 1 Heroes drivers of Mike Kelly and Timothy Stahl looking very racy this year, and huge potential there. So the schedule coming up, Mosport will be next for our broadcast. As you can see, as far as dates, we'll be running Watkins Glen next, but Mosport coming up next, hopefully soon. Big race there, Virginia International Raceway, a difficult race, but a fun race nonetheless. Very, very challenging. Finishing up with Homestead Road, Zolder making its debut on the circuit, and then I think that was Laguna Seca finishing up the schedule. We'll get to those in due course.
All right. So, any wrap-up thoughts, guys?
Well, I thought it was a pretty intense race there. Daytona is always really good with the long straightaways in the drafting. It keeps guys close and keeps the racing pretty interesting. A lot of incidents, spin-outs, kind of half spins, changing things up. But, I mean, aside from a few incidents here or there, it looked like it was a pretty good race overall.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there, Brian. I think we had just about as much action as we did last race at Road America, although this race definitely had a few more incidents which played a big factor in a lot of guys' races, particularly the Daytona Prototypes. We had quite a bit of guys having to retire because of incidents or damage or whatnot, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next one.
Alright, well, thanks you guys out there for watching. Thank you to Anthony Muniz and Brian Carey for their great work here. To ISRA League, its admins and racers for making the races possible. And to Z1 Simwheel, our excellent sponsor. We will see you again at Mosports. Up to Canada, guys. Let's go.